Book, Wings of Wire and Wandera, short story inspired by PDRGONOBSCHARPTR. 2. The Neuron Forge Parker Draconis didn't to sleep that night. The basement lab glowed with the chaotic symphony of a dozen screens, each streaming data from Wyrmbyte's crash landing. The drone lay sprawled across the desk, its carbon fiber wings bent at odd angles. But its core, a custom-built neuromorphic chip Parker had dubbed the Draco Cortex, pulsed faintly, still alive. They smirked, adjusting their augmented reality goggles to zoom in on the chip's diagnostics. "You're a fighter, huh? Let's make you a god." Wyrmbyte V0.1 was no toy. Its Draco Cortex was a Frankenstein of scavenged GPUs, a liquid-cooled FPGA array, and a neural network Parker had trained on a bizarre dataset, fluid dynamics of bird flight medieval dragon sketches and decompiled snippets of military drone, they'd borrowed from a sketchy dark web repo. The result was a system that didn't just fly, it learned to fly, adapting to damage and chaos in real time. Or it would once Parker fixed the damn servo lag. They cracked their knuckles and opened a terminal, fingers flying over a keyboard patched with dragon sticker decals. Lines of Python and Rust scrolled by as they rewrote Wyrmbyte's motor control algorithm, weaving in a reinforcement learning loop inspired by a quantum annealing paper they'd skimmed last week. "Move like water, think like fire," Parker muttered, their voice drowned by the whir of a salvaged server fan. The drone's LED eye flickered green as the code uploaded. A test run was overdue, but Parker's brain was already racing ahead to the next invention. Wyrmbyte was a solo act, clunky, brilliant, but limited. What if they scaled it up? Not just one dragon, but a swarm. A networked hive of machines, each with its own Draco Cortex, sharing a collective intelligence across a decentralized mesh. They'd call it the Neuron Force, a self-evolving ecosystem of drones that could repair, redesign, and replicate themselves using 3D printed parts and scavenged materials. Parker grabbed a sketch pad, scribbling a blueprint, a rack of micro-drones, each the size of a sparrow, equipped with graphene-tipped claws for grabbing debris and a miniature plasma torch for welding. The forge would run on a blockchain-like protocol, every drone a node. Voting on tasks via a proof-of-chaos consensus algorithm Parker had half-invented during a caffeine binge. Power? Solar microfiber wings and a tiny thorium salt battery they'd been prototyping in secret, praying it wouldn't melt the lab. On X, they dropped a teaser. Wyrmbyte's getting siblings. Imagine dragons that build dragons. Hashtag NeuronForge, hashtag tech heretic. The replies exploded, half calling it sci-fi nonsense, half begging for a GitHub link. Parker grinned, uploading a blurry photo of the Draco Cortex under UV light, its fractal circuits glowing like dragon scales. Patience, nerds. Chaos takes time. Back in the lab, Wyrmbyte V0.2 booted up. Parker patched its wings with a quick-drying polymer resin and hit the launch command. This time, it didn't crash. It hovered, wobbled, then stabilized, its neural net compensating for a busted rotor in real time. Data streamed across Parker's goggles, thrust vectors, heat maps, synaptic weights shifting like a living brain. "That's my baby," they whispered, voice thick with triumph. But the Neuron Forge loomed larger in their mind. They imagined it now, a swarm of Wyrmbytes, self-assembling in the basement, then spilling out into the world. A delivery network that rewrote logistics. A disaster response unit that rebuilt itself from rubble. Or Parker's pulse quickened, a weapon no one could control, not even them. They paused, staring at the drone's unblinking eye. "What am I building you for?" they asked aloud. Wyrmbyte didn't answer, but its hum felt like a challenge. Parker turned back to the terminal, diving into the forge's first simulation. The screen filled with virtual dragons, dancing in a storm of code and possibility. There's Chapter 2, packed with tech overload. The Draco Cortex, the Neuron Forge, and a swarm of self-evolving dragon drones. Parker's inventing at the edge of sanity neuromorphic chips, quantum-inspired algorithms, thorium batteries, and a decentralized chaos network. Want Chapter 3 to push the forge further, tweak the tech, or add another insane invention? Let's keep the gears grinding. Let's test ITAL right. Let's throw the Neuron Forge into the deep end. And see what happens when Parker Draconis tests their swarm of self-evolving dragon drones in the real world. Expect chaos, tech gone wild, and Parker's signature blend of brilliance and recklessness. Here's Chapter 3 time to let the dragons loose.